right, say when. Okay, great. All right, let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is the Town Council Work Session, Tuesday, July 8th. It is 10:04 a.m. We do have all councilmen present. We have Councilman Bitter is present via Zoom. We also have Town Administrator Aitken, Town Clerk Hurd, and Town Treasurer Mason in attendance. With that, could I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda.
It's been moved by Councilman Toolson. Second, please.
I'll second.
And a second by Councilman Merrill. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. We have approved the agenda. All right. Moving on to discussion items. We're going to start with the administrator's update.
All right, sorry, I wasn't paying attention to the clock. I apologize.
That's okay.
So one thing I think I need to clarify from our last meeting is about consulting fees with our engineer. I talked to Ryan Welling Fortune about this before, about any private businesses or anybody else, and what we've asked him and our attorney in the past, and reaffirmed it, is that they're not taking calls from anybody, no board members, no members of the public, only the mayor and I are authorized to call and request work. And Ryan confirmed he has not done any work for any private entities that the town has paid for. So I just want to make sure that's clear for everybody. But do you have anybody have any questions about that? Okay. So, and just Brian and Kevin, our attorney, our engineer, only take calls from the mayor and I, with one exception. As part of this fraud assessment that's going to come in, if there's a sexual harassment claim or someone expects someone like me of committing fraud, we'll have employees that they can call our attorney directly, remain confidential, because that kind of stuff can happen at any level, and there needs to be a safe way to communicate that. But other than that, boards, members of the public are not allowed to speak to either one of them on the clock. If they do, they can get their own bill for it. So, moving on from that, we had sent out an email about a truck purchase we were trying to do. It ended up not working out the way we thought it was going to, but what we did is we did purchase a 5500 Dodge that we'll use for plow operations and other hauling of heavier equipment, and also got a Chevy Silverado that's a gas engine vehicle. Yes?
Well, I'd kind of like to go back to the previous issue. If an entity is doing business with the town, would it be considered a conflict of interest to use either the town's attorney or the engineering firm that we use?
So if someone else besides the town wants to use our
Yeah, say I have a bunch
yes.
of property I wanted to have annexed, and I wanted to use the engineer that the town uses for my assessments of any town concerns, wouldn't there be a conflict of interest then to use that same entity?
In my opinion, yes, it would. And so I spoke to our engineer about this. He has not answered any questions or sent out any bills, but he said, I represent the town, and we don't employ him directly, we employ Forestry, and we use several of their engineers, two of them.
Right.
But yeah, he's well aware that he represents us and no one else, if it's related to the town. Our attorney's the same way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know.
Sure. So anyway, back to the trucks. Is there any questions? We thought, working with the salesman, excuse me, we thought we had a little more in trade-in than we did, and when it all got worked out, we ended up just with 2 trucks instead of 1. So, sorry for the confusion there, but that just got a little weird there, and we
came out ahead.
And the reason we got rid of one of the 1-ton Dodges, several reasons. It's had several issues in the past, and speaking with Zach Powers, our mechanic, he thinks it's going to have continued issues. It recently had a transmission failure and some other problems. We were very upfront when we traded that in. but it was not gonna serve our needs, and we weren't able to do anything with that truck. It was just being limped along.
Trevor, just really quick, I'm just looking at the financials, and there's a transmission for the Dodge Ram,
Yes,
$5,600. So that's when we sold.
yeah,
So
we had to
we
put
repaired it.
the transmission went out, within the last month. We just replaced it, and just given how it was treated in the past, lack of maintenance, and what we were using that truck for, it was not adequate, and it was gonna have continued problems. Anything else there? Okay. So the EPA just did a microparticulate analysis last week, and I just got the email from them this morning. We're gonna pay the bill for us because they wanted to hold a hostage, but it cost about $530, I think, but we just got that back. I haven't had time to look at it and see what it says, but we're interested to see. And what they did is they opened up one of the leveling boxes in Prater Canyon, and they put a filter down there for about 10 hours, and then they take it, they spin it in the centrifuge, cut it open, and look what's inside. I don't know what any of that means or what the results will be, but we need to, that's regular, it's a regular thing the EPA requires every 3 years, I think,
Yeah.
3 to 5 years.
We thought it was interesting that they want us to pay for it, though. They require it, and yet we're gonna still have to foot the bill. I know it's $500, it's not $5,000, but I was surprised.
Yeah,
So,
I was a shock to me too, but they don't actually do it, they contract somebody to come and do it for them, so I guess that's what we pay for.
And they took it out of Green Canyon, you said?
Prater
Prater.
Canyon.
Oh, Prater.
They have the delivery line there.
Oh,
And recently, yesterday I sent in a letter to the EPA, just generally talking about our water system. We've had a lot of, I don't want to say negative emails, but we've had a lot of emails from them that are concerning to me about chlorination. We've had several coliform positive tests since we've stopped chlorination, and they have focused in on that. So we have looked with our engineer, with our water department, we've taken a hard look at our entire water system, and I just sent them an update with things we're doing, like the Elkhorn, putting an anti-backflow flapper in there and things like that to let them know we are serious here. We're taking a look at our system and how we can improve things. So the topic of chlorination always comes up with them. They send emails pretty regularly. We took our monthly samples yesterday, and I'm not sure what they're going to have, what the results will be, but we have reached out to multiple other municipalities around the state, water systems. We've talked to Wyoming Rural Water. We've spoken to our engineer. I spoke to another engineer who was here for another project who gave great advice as well. And I've spoken to Dan Stewart quite a bit, who is on our water board and runs Jackson System. And the overwhelming thought here is that having a spring should most likely be introducing chlorine into that part of the system. The wells are another issue because where they come from is a little more protected, but in talking to Dan, he kind of overwhelmed me with a lot of stuff he had to say, but I reached out to Bailey Smith, who is the treatment expert with the EPA, and asked her some questions on it as well. And I can't say the EPA is going to come back and mandate we go back on chlorine, but I have the very strong feeling that they are looking at that. And if we get any more TC positive samples, I think they probably will. We get emails every month that we have one from Jamie Harris mentioning that they're going to put us back on chlorination. So in looking at this, I want to be very upfront. I brought this up before, but if we voluntarily chlorinate the spring coming in, we can control how much chlorine we put in there. Instead of having a mandate, we can reduce that by half. And as long as we have residual in all the test points in our system, that will satisfy the EPA, and we most likely will not have coliform positive samples. I talked to Ernie Sines, who used to run the system here extensively as well, and I think it is in our best interest to voluntarily do that before we get told to do it, and then we'll have to introduce the level of chlorine the EPA says at all of our wells as well as the spring.
So, hey, Trevor, this is Wade. Got a question for you then. Is there a time when we could then come off of chlorine, let's say later in the summer, to test it and see if it really is related to runoff? Is what I'm curious on. Or do we just keep this low amount of chlorine going? What's your thoughts?
So a couple things there. Yes, we can come off it whenever we want because we chose to put ourselves on it. We have the control there to take ourselves off of it. And the most vulnerable times, or the times we're most likely to have coliform positive tests, would be when the runoff is either high or low. So spring and fall is when we're most likely to have issues there. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it sure does. That's what I needed to know. Just, again, if we do it, we're in control. If we don't do it, they come back, they're gonna mandate us to do it. So, yeah, thanks.
And it's my belief if we get mandated back on, we most
Yeah.
likely will not be coming off again.
So
Yeah.
we went back, or when we had chlorination before, we went off their numbers, right? And that's where we're at.
Yes.
So why would we go under their number that they're saying we need to chlorinate at?
For a number of reasons. For one, I can't handle that many more complaints. just joking around there, but I think that we can still provide safe water and have less odor, less taste, and I don't know how they come up with their numbers, but I've talked to everybody throughout the state, and most systems, well, I can't say most, but there are a lot of systems that are not required to chlorinate that do, for peace of mind, to avoid problems and make sure that no one gets sick and to not run into a problem where they get mandated as well. So this is a common thing, becoming more common. And talking to Dan Stewart, he said the one thing that really goes for us here is how cold the water is here. So if we were anywhere else and you have warmer water, you would most likely have bigger problems with things in the water.
And they're thinking it's from the spring that they're getting the positive?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's when we had the last positive samples were at the source. So when the town was on chlorination before, when the EPA mandated it, we were chlorinating at the spring, but we were also chlorinating at one or two of the wells.
Just one.
One.
Yeah.
And the amount, and then the EPA was also dictating how much chlorine we were introducing. So as Trevor's talked to, historically, like Ernie Sands and just Dan Stewart and other people and other municipalities, chlorinating at the source, if that's where we most recently had bad samples, should be effective. And so again, if we start doing it ourselves, it gives us the opportunity to go and see how much do we need to introduce, or is it actually going to flow through the system properly, and then is that going to get rid of any further positive samples that might come up.
Yeah, so best reach.
How soon would we start?
We could start next week. We have
Okay.
chlorine. Well, I asked Quentin to be prepared for that just in case that's where we go. So we're prepared.
Okay.
I think, so they took samples yesterday for our July monthly, and we probably will get those results back tomorrow. And if we get bad, positive samples again, I think it would definitely be in our best interest to be out in front and say, we're going to start chlorinating next week, before the EPA potentially would come back and go, okay, you guys, you're back under our thumb again with the chlorination program. If the samples come back good tomorrow, we still need to think about it and decide, do we want to start doing it anyway? It's not an easy decision to make, because we know a lot of residents were impacted by it and had, it was, in different areas of town, people seem to have more of an impact from the chlorine than in others. I know at my house, didn't notice it as often, but I think maybe down here there was more impact for people, and they were very, very happy when we got off chlorine. So I know this is not gonna be a popular decision if we decide to do it, but just trying to let everyone know all the things Trevor's been finding out and what we think might be in the best interest going forward.
Is there anything I could answer on that topic? It's not popular, but
I'm thinking the well is got the coliform in it, like, are we sure it's like runoff that's actually causing that, or do we know why it's positive in the? I know it's an open spring, but
that's a
we've
concern.
also had it for a long time, so I'm just trying to figure out why, if there's any way we can figure out something different in the spring.
So the concern with springs is that they're coming out of the ground. I mean, the spring was flowing almost 500 gallons a minute, and what does that wash out coming out of the ground? Dirt, whatever. Those tests are extremely sensitive,
They are,
and
it's
you can.
ridiculous. It could be any little thing.
Yeah, it could be anything. And a coliform positive sample doesn't mean you have toxic water or problem with your water. It's just an indication there could be something there.
Yeah.
Your wells are deeper. They're coming out of the ground deeper, and they're not just flowing. So animals can get up to where the spring is. I mean, they can defecate or urinate there in the area, and that can infiltrate the water some. We're fairly confident, very confident, that's our biggest concern in talking to everybody, but also the last samples we had, I forget the address, but we had one on Spruce, and then when you have one, you have to retest and do 2 above and 2 below. Well, there was one above, and then the source was the next one above, and that was a TC positive sample. So you do, in the spring, you can get leaves and sticks and all kinds of things in there that can tip those tests, but
Is there anything we can do with the well that would be different than chlorinating, like just for the future, so we're not? Because I know the open spring is the problem for the most part. So I didn't know if there was another option as far as getting water, or possibly cleaning just the well, and so that we're not having to chlorinate the whole system.
The natural purification system for water is as the water goes down through the soil, that pulls the pollutants, et cetera, out of it. All 3 of the wells are over 300 feet deep. So there's virtually no chance that something from the surface is going down below. The spring, on the other hand, it doesn't come out. We've capped it back inside the mountain. But the distance between where that cap is, where we pick the water up from it, and the surface above it could be anywhere from 1.5 to 2 feet on up. That's most likely where the problem is coming.
So, Councilwoman, were you asking, could we not have water from the spring and just do wells? I wasn't certain what you were
is that
asking.
something we need to look at? Like, we're chlorinating a whole system that hasn't been having to be chlorinated in the past. So is there another option or way? And granted, especially as we're looking at replacing tanks and such in the next decade or whatever timeline we choose, is there something else we should be looking at besides just the well or the spring, especially if it's bringing in contaminated water?
So you're proposing that we run the spring back into the stream and drill another well?
I'm asking if that is something we should be looking at some point. Like, in the future, we don't want to have to keep chlorinating.
I would have to talk to some people much more educated on that than I am, but I think that is not in our best interest. The majority of our water does come from the spring, and I think the small amount of chlorine we think we can put in there would have very little odor, taste, and it will provide clean water for everyone. I think that's in our best interest financially as well as longevity to maintain the spring. Would it be feasible to do everything off of wells?
Yeah, it would just cost.
Yeah.
Or enclosing the spring in some way? Are we allowed to do something of that sort?
It would take a lot of engineering and permits, that won't solve the concern really. Because where it comes out of the surface, there's always a potential for contamination there.
Doesn't come out of the surface. It's capped back inside the
Well,
soil.
that's what I'm saying,
Proximity
like,
to the surface.
Yeah,
So
that's better.
for Afton, when Afton went through all their difficulty with the EPA, with, you know, similar issue with surface water under the influence of whatever that term is, groundwater, I guess. Ultimately, they ended up voluntarily chlorinating as well. Am I correct
Yes,
about that? Yeah.
Afton
So
does
they're-
voluntarily.
Even though they weren't doing it before, now just to be able to control it themselves, that was the agreement they came to, I guess, eventually with the EPA, after much litigation. So, it's not a good answer, but
How are we deciding the number of, like, the amount of chlorine we're putting in, how are we deciding that?
Well, what we had discussed, and this is just a discussion, not a decision, is that we would cut it in half. Because all we really need is, you just need trace amounts at every point in your system. So, I don't even know for sure if that is the case in our situation, because we don't have a concern with the other three entrance, the other three wells, we don't have a concern with the water there. So if we treat the water coming out of the spring, I think we'll be fine, and we won't have any more, in theory, TC positive samples.
right. I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but when the EPA was having us chlorinate at the spring and then also at the Foxrun Park well,
Yes.
I mean, my suspicion is that the chlorine being introduced there was what was really impacting residents the most. I mean, and the EPA wanted it at multiple locations, I guess, to make sure we had chlorine residuals throughout the system. However, from what Trevor's learned in talking with Ernie and Dan Stewart, if we introduce at the source, it should work its way through the entire distribution system at a lower level, but still give us the residual that the EPA is going to want to see. So, yeah, well, we think we could do it with it being a lot less impactful to the residents. That was
Is
the,
there a reason you went with half and not, because if like a quarter worked, then why? I mean, I'm just curious, like, if you start small and you're saying, hey, EPA, we're trying, this is still not working, we're amping it up, then we're gonna amp it up more and more. I just, I've talked to a lot of people, I'm just wondering.
No, there wasn't like a specific scientific reason. We just discussed, what if we cut this in half, start that, and we can add to or take away based on how we need. But there's not a chart that shows it or not.
and when you say half, so is that really like a quarter? Because we're not going to do the wells, we're just going to do the source and we're going to cut it in half. So it's kind of like a quarter. I don't know if my math is right there.
It'll fluctuate, I mean, my only thought is if you introduce it, doing it the minimal, and then if it's not working, growing it
increase it,
instead
yeah.
of starting here and
So,
getting a lot of complaints.
the problem with that is if we started the minimum and it doesn't work, then EPA is gonna come in and then slap you
Might
with
start
their
telling us.
number,
Yeah.
which is gonna be a whole lot higher.
Well, and that's why I'm like, if you're talking, are they going to say, okay, you guys are working on this on your own, you're voluntarily doing this, but it's not quite there yet, keep going, or are they just gonna say?
No, they're gonna go boom.
Yeah,
No way, ma'am. The other piece of it is, there is, I'm sure, town resident, that does the chlorine, does the water testing, or did the water testing?
Bruce Hemming?
Yeah, Bruce Henning can tell you, given the level that was recorded on our last one, and the amount of water coming in from the spring, can probably calculate what you wanna put in.
So I think, well, let's get the test results back tomorrow and we'll
Yeah,
let everybody
see
know
what it
how those
says.
turn out.
Does any of our well water go directly to the residences, or does it get mixed in a reservoir first?
The well water goes up to Green Candy Tank, so no, it doesn't go directly.
No, not correctly true.
Okay.
The line that goes from the pumps on the wells to Green Canyon is the distribution line that sends water out to the residents.
Okay, so it's possible.
Yes,
Okay, that makes sense.
I got in a debate with people on that once before.
Okey doke, what else you got, Trevor?
Okay, so, just real quick, our graders out on the north end, you know, out the below area, up north, Silver Star, Zach texted me this morning, they're about 50% of the way done. So rather than just hoping that they're 30 days, which didn't actually work out, but we're just out trying to fix roads. So Silver Star didn't really go from Vista north, they just kind of been all over, so we're just going out trying to do what we can right now. We are, yesterday and today, we're having a lot of the road base, all the road base hauled in to do the Vista project, and that should start 28th of July, be about a 2-week project to remove 24 inches and put road base all in there, pack it all down in preparation for paving. The tank lining bid will be open today at 2 o'clock. We'll see what happens there. So kind of cautiously optimistic, but we'll see how that goes. The paving of Hardman and Middle Branch is underway right now, not the paving part, but the preparation part, and we've run into a couple small issues I got to work with our engineer just on what actual distance we're going to pave there. Ryan's not here today, but Ernie, who's the inspector for Fourth Grade, called with questions, and I said, I don't know, we're going to have to ask Ryan. He wrote this up. I don't know. It doesn't specify a couple things on there, but it should be underway here by the end of next week. I'm thinking that will be paved. And our SMO, summertime SMO, will start tomorrow. So that's what I have, unless somebody has any questions for me.
Can you send out an email, after the bid opening, just so we know what the numbers are?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And so what should also happen if we hopefully get one that's within budget is that Ryan will write a recommendation letter that he'll send to us as a council on, I recommend award of this. And then we'll need to do, if the council agrees, then we will do a motion to authorize the award of the bid and the contract. So on the SMO, real quick, I was going to bring it up later, but since Trevor mentioned it, we need to add a motion to the agenda tonight for the council to authorize appointment of Jacob Pepper as the seasonal SMO. So that's something that staff brought to my attention yesterday, because I didn't think about that. So we're going to do that this evening, but we can go over that when we go over agenda items later.
I would suggest, since he's coming up every summer generally, don't put an ending date on it.
Okay, we were discussing that. I don't know what you guys came up with yesterday on.
We did.
Okay. All right.
That way we can bring him up every summer.
Not have to keep reappointing him seasonally, so, okay. Okay, anything else?
Nope.
Okay, any other questions for Trevor? Right?
Is there anything, sorry,
Go ahead.
as far as complaints, I know we've mentioned that a lot. Are there continuing complaints that like we can help you in the community say, like help you with?
One of the bigger ones is motorcycles, and I keep referring people to the sheriff's office, and some people are getting a little nasty with me, thinking I don't understand how the law works, but we do not have law enforcement authority, I assure you that. So those complaints do need to go to the sheriff's office. And we're working on there's a lot of complaints about weeds right now. There's a lot of complaints about
You say weeds?
Weeds.
Weeds,
Noxious
not just weeds.
yeah.
So,
We're gonna have our SMOs try to address that with residents, do an educational thing, like, hey, we do have an ordinance, can you take care of your weeds? We're not gonna start a heavy-handed enforcement issue, but we're gonna try to educate some people, so. A lot of complaints about dust, the Dust Busters just got bought out by a company a couple weeks ago, and the cost of dust guard has gone up at least 50%. We're working through that, and we just got hit with that news, so the Silver Star's delayed a lot of the road rehab, but we've done a fair amount, and we're working on that, but those are the main things right now. So.
anything else? All right, thank you. All right, moving on, financial update. Ms. Mason.
The budget is the new budget you guys just approved since we just ended the fiscal year. So at this point, it's the numbers all of you agreed to. Wide pass for our savings, general fund, we have 700,000, road improvement, 824,000, capital equipment reserve, 247,000, water capital equipment reserve, 215,000. Out of those two accounts, yesterday I took the money out for the new trucks, that was 60,000, so that was reduced. System reserve, 1,844,000. Water fund savings, 16,000. Loan repayment reserve, 466,000. Town facilities, 133,000. Sinking fund, 528,000. ARPA, 325,000. Town facilities, water side, 20,000.
So we're into the new budget year, so things will look a little different going forward in how we're gonna track and monitor everything compared to last year. So kind of looking forward to that and getting adjusted to the new process. Any questions for Loretta? Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. Next item on the agenda are new fees. Specifically, initially, I thought we needed to do a resolution to add a new fee. However, in going back and kind of reviewing how things have been done in the past, plus just what is required, I don't believe every time we add a fee to our fee schedule for something administrative, like a chargeback fee, that we need to do a resolution. So we pulled that out of tonight's agenda, and I did want to discuss it with the council. The proposal is to add a $14 fee, because currently we have a $30 fee if someone has a return check for insufficient funds. However, if we get a return charge for electronic funds transfer, it's $14, and currently the town has just been eating that. So we would like to add that as an administrative fee to the fee schedule, and we can just update that and put that on the town website. So if the council is in agreement to that, I don't know that we need to take a vote, but if you don't think that's the correct way to do it, I feel like we could be doing a resolution every month to add, fees or administrative changes like that, so.
I think I was wondering when we were gonna increase the water hookup fee, because I know we were talking about that, so I didn't know if.
The rate, water rates, or, I'm sorry?
No, the, hook, or the meter pit build out or whatever,
Oh.
that we charged $7,500 for.
Right.
I think we determined that was way under what we needed
Okay.
to, as far as the piping and everything that they're using now, so
Okay.
I didn't know, unless you want the water board to make a suggestion, I can.
That would be great, I think, if the water board could
Okay.
do that, because, and if we were to do a change to that, we might want to do that as like a resolution, because it affects water rates and it's a
Okay.
bigger thing. But I'm open to suggestions from the council on,
That's an ordinance, so it'd have to be done.
so we would have to, because it's an ordinance, okay, there you go. So if the water board would take a look at, do we need to raise that
Oh, wait, the
fee?
resolution for the actual change, is that what you meant?
I was gonna say, if we were to increase the hookup fee,
Okay.
then if it's in, I think in ordinance, we have to do a resolution to approve that
Yeah,
change versus
okay.
what I was talking about with like the $14 administrative
Oh, I
charge.
hear what
Yeah.
you're saying, okay.
Yeah, sorry, wasn't
Yeah,
clear.
no, it's okay, I just wanted to.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna make a note to look at, what do we call that? Is that a hookup fee?
I thought it was
Connection, new
hookup,
service
but
or something?
water tap.
Water tap, thank you. All right. That's really the only fee, the $14 chargeback that we currently, the staff would like to include so that we can recoup that when we get those, because we have been getting quite a few of those lately.
My only question is $14 enough? Does that actually cover our costs?
That is what we get charged, is that
That's what
correct?
we are charged.
Yes.
Yeah, but
So-
there's also employee time on that. See, if it's a check return, it's $30. If I do it with my credit card, it's only 14 bucks. Not sure that's,
Do we
I feel
get
like anything
charged?
should be, a chargeback should be 30 bucks. Like,
Most places.
So do we get charged $30 for the check return currently?
We don't charge that time for it.
Right, so we just charge what we get charged. That was kind of what the discussion was. But the council thinks we should make it more than that. We did also talk about, what was the other thing we talked about, with the percentage, the credit card fees?
Yeah, I
percentage?
brought up the credit card fees because,
Mhm.
other places do charge the 3% if you use a
Throughout the
credit
whole
card,
valley.
and we're eating that.
Yeah.
The town pays for it for people using credit cards,
Mhm.
because we don't charge back.
We
for
don't
that.
charge that, so we're not passing on that processing
Oh.
fee to residents right now either.
Because
I
they
don't
can
know.
always pay check if they choose to, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we didn't add that to the, something we want to do right now, but if it's something the council thinks we should consider in future doing, I know in previous, that had been brought up on previous councils or maybe just in house discussions and it was not done. So something else for us to just think about possibly doing. Okay, anything else on that for now? And thank you for having the water board look at the water tap fees. Okay, I added a next agenda item, updates on any new or proposed ordinance changes. Just in case anybody has had a chance to look at anything yet, and I know it's only been a couple of weeks, so I wasn't expecting to have any proposed changes yet. We only have, I think, 2 ordinances tonight, yes, and we don't have any new ones. So if anybody has found anything and you wanted to bring it up, that was kind of my thought behind having this item on the agenda. I don't have any from the planning and zoning. I know Scott has a whole list of things he wanted me to look at, so we have not sat down to go through it yet. Anybody good for ordinances for now? Okay, I expect we'll have some more changes coming up here in the next couple of council meetings. All right, and then I added on the EMS topic. We did talk about this some last time. And Trevor and I have not been notified yet of any meeting. The leadership at Star Valley Health said they were going to try and put a meeting together this month, but we have not seen anything come through about it yet. So I did just want to take a couple minutes for the council to talk about our expectations. We're still currently under the agreement we have with EMS through the end of next year. Is it 2026? Okay. So we still have some time. But it is something you should probably think about, especially once this meeting gets on the calendar, where all of this is going to go. And you should have received the info paper that Star Valley Health provided to us, along with, I did forward out the 2017, I don't know what you would call that, report or survey about EMS within the valley at that time that kind of led
objectives, I
to.
think it was, wasn't it?
What's that?
Wasn't it their objectives and plans?
Yes, and a lot of them seem to not have been accomplished. So, or what the recommendations were, I should say, in that report. But if you do have any input on that, or, start thinking about it, because we're certainly gonna have to make some decisions down the road, especially when my sense is we'll get approached about having a new agreement with Star Valley Health for EMS. Of course, again, we don't have to make a decision right now, but it's just something that's going to be coming. And I'm sure many of you have probably seen a lot of, public comment about the topic just in the newspaper and elsewhere in the valley. So, okay. All right, moving on, board reports. Councilman Bitter, Finance Advisory Board, I'm not sure if there's been a meeting since our last meeting.
No, they have not met, but they are scheduled to meet July 17th, that's next Thursday, a week from this Thursday. And they're on their agenda, they'll take a look at the investment, wild class and rates, as well as confirming, determining excess cash to be invested or pulled back, kind of look at that versus the budget. And then we're also going to have discussions on annexation a little bit, and the work that they've already pulled together on some of the things, whether it's Alpine or even some other towns that have done annexation situations in the past, and what items to consider. So that's on their agenda for next week from this Thursday.
Okay, thank you. Natural resources.
Yeah, I'm happy to report that the Natural Resources Board made $10,598.75 on their garage sale. So we cleared that one, and they have canceled the July meeting.
Oh, okay. Good to know. They probably need a break.
That was the plan. They're supposed to be starting to work on the entrance here shortly
Oh,
to the
good.
town.
Okay. All right, the planning commission has not met since our last meeting. Their previous meeting was June 18th, so we talked about that last time. They will be meeting tomorrow. Just to update everyone, we did not get an appeal on that denial of the variance that we talked about at our last meeting, so don't have to worry about town council considering that. We do have another variance that was just sent in earlier this week for the planning commission will go over tomorrow, and it has to do, I didn't send it out to the council yet, just because I'm not even sure if the planning commission has enough information to make a decision yet on it, but just heads up that there is another one, and it has to do with a modular home in Plat 5, and the variance request is because the lot is a sort of a more skinny rectangular lot, he's asking for, instead of the 10-foot setbacks on either side, for it to be 7. But again, we're still working on pulling some information and stuff together for the planning commission to see where they land on that one. Okay, and then roads advisory, is that rescheduled for later in the month?
The 24th.
The 24th, okay. So, July.
At 6 p.m.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, travel and tourism board.
We'll meet next Wednesday,
All right.
I think at 2.
Is that the 16th?
It is, the 16th at 2 p.m.
Thank you. All right. Water utility board.
Well, we didn't get much accomplished this last week, but there was a lot of discussion. Yeah, primarily it sounds like they were wanting some follow-up on some of the past things that
Action
have been
items.
discussed, and, yeah.
Do you have any other comment on that one? I mean, I did sit in on that one, and that was kind of my takeaway, that there was a lot of review of previous items, and they did talk about briefly the question the council has asked for them to make some recommendations about the reserve amounts, but I don't think there was any, it didn't land on anything yet. So, okay. All right, moving on, regular agenda items. So let's take a quick look at tonight's agenda. All right, so we don't have a lot tonight. There's the usual items at the top. Call to order, pledge, reconvene regular meeting, adopt agenda, announcements, and proclamations. I don't think we have any. Public comments, adoption of the consent agenda. Then for ordinances, we have the third reading of the tabled solar ordinance. How do the process for doing that? So I just want to make sure I get it right. Ask for a motion to take it from the table? How does that work? I'm looking at you, Councilman Ellis.
No, we don't need to.
Parliamentarian.
When we tabled it to a specific date.
Yes.
So now it's on the agenda, you don't have to do
I
it.
don't have to,
It's
okay.
already there.
Great. All right, then that makes that easy. And then the other one, I believe, is that third reading of moving to the IRC 2021?
Yep.
All right, so those are the only two ordinances. We don't have any new ones. Under item 9, resolutions and motions, that's where we're going to add a motion for appointing Jacob Pepper as the seasonal SMO. So
So
basically,
someone
will have to read that.
will need to make a motion to amend the agenda.
Okay. I think we were gonna add that in as a change today. Do we need to wait and just do it as an amendment
Do
tonight?
it as an amendment because your agenda has to be out X number of days in advance.
All right, so we'll do it that way then. Thank you. So, scribbling notes to self. All right.
Okay, I do have one question.
Yes.
The SMO report. If you look at the SMO report, it says, on the email that came in on it, it says this month I had 19 ordinance violations, 10 written warnings, 9 verbal warnings, and 0 citations. And yet if you open up the document, you're gonna see 9 citations? Which was it?
So is that
The table.
was that the email that you were
Yep.
mentioning initially?
The
Okay.
email said there were no
No.
citations. The special municipal officer report shows
Says
9
there's 9,
citations.
so it's like they're flipped around.
Yeah, there are no citations, there's nothing on the court docket, so that's, there is.
So that the error's here, okay.
All right.
That's all.
All right, so there's we need a correction to the SMO report. Thank you
Yeah.
for catching that.
Yeah.
Citations versus verbal. Okay, got it. Let's see. And then we don't have any public hearings or action items, so then it's just mayor and council and adjournment. So probably, depending on public comment, probably not too lengthy of a meeting. And then Councilman Bitter is going to zoom in for that one tonight too. All right, very good. Any questions about tonight's agenda? All right. Okay, matters from the mayor and council. Councilman Merrill, anything to bring up today?
No, today.
Okay. Councilman Tolson?
I have actually spoken to Mayor about this, but the HOA has come, now that their board is set for the term, they would like to meet with us. We talked about if we're all there, then it's gonna be a public meeting, so my recommendation, they don't want, when I went back and said, talked to them a little bit about pushing it off until September, they would rather, you know, just get the discussion started now. So I am all in for sitting down with them, I don't care if it's by myself, but if you guys are okay with that, or if somebody wants to join me, just to start the discussion between the two.
About anything in particular? Or just
No, I think just starting it, like, hey, what's on your mind, what's on,
a few topics, basically.
a couple topics to bring to the table. I
Would
don't
that
think we have to totally hash everything
something,
out.
Trevor, you could take on with Councilman Toolson
Sure.
to just start some discussion, and then we can see where it needs to go from there?
Yeah,
Does that
and,
sound
I
reasonable?
mean, so how many, because they were kinda like, we don't need to have a public meeting, this is more just like a, hey,
Like a
we wanna
working
start
meeting.
working
Yeah,
together.
working level.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I mean, it can be open, I don't care who attends it, but just to start it.
Okay, I'll let the two of you coordinate, to schedule that to get things rolling, and then if we do need to bring it to like, I don't know, one of our work sessions where it's more of a public forum with them, then we can have that as like a follow-on. So,
Okay.
does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Anything else?
No.
Okay. I would like to just remind the council that any comments to the Lincoln County community overlays, I need to have any feedback back to Chief of Staff Stephen Allen by the 1st of August. So I had sent those out previously, but I can resend it if that's needed. So I had noticed couple things that just didn't seem to align with what my understanding is that the town submitted initially. So there were a couple things that were changed, but otherwise I didn't have a whole lot of comment myself. So, but I can resend that back out just for good measure. All right, Councilman Ellis.
Go to Wade first.
Okay, Councilman Bitter. Anything for matters for the mayor and council?
None for me.
Okay, thank you. All right, Councilman
Okay,
Ellis.
what amount of money do we think we need to put in terms of public works on allowing them to take advantage of opportunities that come up based upon what's in the capital reserves? Because I know that we missed an opportunity not too long ago for a $100,000 piece of equipment, $6,100. So how do we want to work that? Because that's going to have to go into some kind of a official document.
So from the last meeting in our ordinance, the only thing, well, it talks about action for emergency purposes, but there's nothing specified like a dollar threshold. So that's kind of, I think, where you're coming from
Yeah.
and how we want to go about doing that. I don't know if you want to take a crack at drafting something up that you think would fit in the ordinance so the council can take a look at it.
I just want to get a feeling as to what the dollar amount, people think the dollar amount should be.
And this would be for,
If I may, the way I've always approached that when I've had to deal with those budgets, it's a percentage of the amount you have in the fund you're gonna take from. So you're talking about reserves.
Yeah.
You've got 500,000, you take 10%, that's 50 grand. And then the other is you give spending authority to the specific person in charge and approval authority to like the town administrator or the mayor. And that way, no one in public works or whatever entity is spending money without knowledge being passed up the chain to the people who actually have fiduciary responsibilities.
I think that makes some sense. What
Well, that's the first time
rest of the
I've
council?
existed that.
Pardon?
they're all
I
different.
like that idea.
Yeah. They're all different though,
So for already in the budget to purchase something, I don't think that needs authorization. I'm talking about, like, if we need other things, that aren't already in the budgets, they haven't been approved by the council yet, I think that number should be really low. Because at least right now, just to help with transparency for our constituents as well, but, amongst each other, so that we're just aware that, like, just not some random number can be spent, nor can it be higher than a certain amount. So, to me, if you're gonna spend more than $2,500 or $5,000, it needs to come through, the council.
Then you're gonna miss some very good opportunities.
Well, what is it that someone's buying that the council hasn't already approved?
Okay, the one I just mentioned, do you know what a vac truck is?
I am aware of it.
Okay, one went on sale on an auction and went for $6,100. It costs us, what is it, Zach? $250 an hour for the truck to come in from from
Is that in
Idaho
our,
Falls?
is in our budget, right, as in
It's not in the budget.
Okay, so then why are we getting it?
we do have another vehicle in the budget though.
No,
Like,
We're
I
talking
think
about
that's
this
my
budget.
concern,
no.
like,
Why are we getting that? Because we're gonna have to dig up a bunch of pipelines to see if they're lead or not because of the EPA and find pipes in the town.
no, I know what it's necessary for, but my
Okay.
question is, why wasn't it already put in our budget when we just approved it?
We have additional truck, which we just kind of left it generic, additional truck, $35,000 is in the
Okay.
budget. So I think that's where the vac truck would reside.
Well, since this was brought up, and like I said, me and Trevor and the mayor, we've talked many times, we're, what, $425,000 for, chip sealing, for 4 and 5, for, 5, and I think for, Loretta's there, 21, I think that is. It's $425,000. And understand, I mean, it's whatever you decide, it's fine. But imagine what could be saved if we already have that. If we already have the chip sealer, where we can do our own maintenance, stuff like that. We can save thousands on stuff like that. And that's what, the councilman, that's what he's saying. Just, if our opportunities pop up, I'm not saying let's buy everything, but if we keep a lot of stuff in-house, because right now, I mean, yeah, we'll get road base bought in, but it's $140 an hour for a dump truck. I can't get them no cheaper than that. And that's not accounting the rock. So yeah, if we can do a lot of stuff ourselves, we have the guys that can do it. eat, no problem. But that's kind of what we're talking about, it's just, and really, one thing with the chip seal, because we got the dump trucks, is just the tar truck, just to put the tack down, stuff like that on top, you know.
So let me ask this is for Trevor and for Loretta. Do we have like policies for purchasing? I know there's policy developments and procedure developments, one of the things that we're working on. But maybe this is also something that can go in there, like so we have some clearly identified policies for purchasing it. I mean, because to me, something like this is different than, me signing a contract for something that we have in our budget, which still has to go before the council for a motion to approve me to do that. So this is for all the other things that, get bought in the daily operational business of the town, so.
Yeah, we don't really have a policy.
Yeah, so.
And the reason why these things come up, I didn't even consider this, we didn't talk about any of this, but now that we've worked this out where we can do the dirt work on Vista and save a lot of money, we're looking at everything. How can we be more efficient? We're constantly looking at things and things we didn't think about during the budget process. That we looked at, could we buy the equipment to do asphalt? And the answer is probably no, that's gonna be too costly, we have to maintain it, there's some problems. But chip seal, we probably could. We didn't think of this during budget time, but.
Well, and that's okay, but that's what, we can amend the budget as well. My thing is, this was the whole point to the discussion in our last workshop. I just don't want money being spent that we haven't put in our budget, because as far as I'm concerned, when we make up our budget every year, that's where the money is going. And so when that is changed, it needs to come before the council, especially if it's a greater amount than what we were saying, like $2,500, $5,000, at least initially, because I don't think that we have anything that should just be randomly spent that costs more than that the council isn't aware of.
But if you could get an opportunity for something that can save you big money in the past. For example, that Zach just talked about, needs a tar truck so that we can do chip seal. Remember, the roads that are chip sealed have to be redone every 3 years. We've got roads in this town, at least one that I know of, that hasn't been chip sealed in 5 years.
I'm not arguing that, purchasing that. What I'm arguing is that it's just randomly done without the town council's approval. Because that means that, we've fallen into this before where purchases were made that should have been authorized by town council so that we didn't have money spent that it shouldn't have been spent at. Especially when we're responsible, the accountability is on the whole town council.
But if our public works people come in and say, this is important to what we're doing, this is an opportunity that comes up, this is the kind of money we can save, and your mayor and your administrator agree with it, and it's
He's
underneath.
not held responsible for it, it's that we are. My responsibility is fiscal, right?
Correct.
As town council is being elected.
But remember, as the statement you quoted from state law says it's only illegal if it exceeds the reserve amount. And if we're looking at like 10% of the reserve amount, it's never going to exceed it.
I don't think we're talking about the same thing.
So
My 2 cents would be, you guys gave us a list of your most desirable things. I think we gave you everything on that list. So my recommendation is we keep a list going that is maybe you keep it in your, what you think we need, and we can either say, all right, so then we're at least not blindsided, we need a back truck. Well, why didn't we talk about that in January? So I feel like we gave you guys everything that you asked for, and I'm not on one side or the other. I just think we should just need to be more aware of what is coming down, what you think you need, so that we have it in our brains.
It's not a bad point either, because then Zach could say, here's the list that wasn't in the budget, and then if there's an amount there, and if the council says, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, the list everyone got was after I took a machete to it. Zach had a big list, and I said, I'm not bringing these up, I'm not. And, I think we got a good amount of stuff to work with And that's not for us, the guys who don't benefit from it, the residents do, but all we're saying is, just if the council agrees, I don't care either way, but it would make things flow a little better when we have an opportunity, like to get something to help us do chip seal, for example. But if there's $50,000 in the account that was approved and it sits there, Zach can come in every day like, hey, look what I found, and whoever, whether it's me or the mayor or both of us or whatever, no, I don't think so, no, I don't think so. But if there's something that makes sense, that will increase efficiency, and it's not a government bid where you have less than 48 hours, that's when it would be effective. And this wouldn't be used for, rainbows and lollipops. This would be something that would increase efficiency big time to benefit the residents and help us move farther ahead of what we can do. So that's what this idea is.
So, just in looking at the budget we just approved, for instance, we have $20,000 in there for dump truck upgrades, but I don't know that we're needing to do $20,000 worth of upgrades now. So there's that particular line item is in there. If there's now, I don't know what the device is called for the chip sealing, whatever that piece of equipment is, that could potentially, like if one were to come up used and it fits within that line item that we know we have budgeted but doesn't specify that item, would the council be amenable if you're made aware of it, that look, we have the opportunity to buy this now, we're gonna put it here? Because it's not gonna go over the whole capital expenditure, right? But I do understand, we did put this wish list together of what we have in the budget, and things, obviously it's a budget, so things change. And then I'm thinking the same thing with the additional truck. Additional truck's pretty wide open, like what is that? Is that the back truck, is that the, and I can't remember.
Is that the 60 grand that we just spent?
No, that one did say road truck at 550, which is what was purchased. So the additional truck.
Oh, so I mean, I also feel like we have been buying a lot of vehicles lately. So we may want to evaluate that at some point. Like, I just want to make sure that it's showing up in our efficiency of caring for our roads too.
It is.
I mean, I just feel like we also need to be purchasing other things and such as well, so just.
Keep in mind that the trucks that we've been buying, we're getting rid of some other ones.
No, and I know we need the new plow truck, like I mean, that's why it was in the budget,
And,
so.
and the truck that we got rid of with the bad transmission, was the third transmission in
No, I
that
was
truck.
aware of the transmission.
It's also got a broken frame.
Yeah. I know the trucks were breaking down. I'm not saying we don't need some of them. I'm just saying at some point too,
I guess my point is, in the past, the town has been buying some equipment that was not suitable for what it was going to be used for. And we're getting rid of some of that old stuff and moving to some more heavy-duty equipment. That 550 is big.
So I think my suggestion would be that from the staff, we can try and work on some policies for purchasing, work on some language for ordinances as far as, caps and spending percentages, however, to get after it. But then also, and looking at where, I know it's day 8 of the new budget year, but, obviously there's $20,000 I can see that we're not gonna spend in that line, because the dump truck we got was great. So if there's now this other piece of equipment for chip seal or anything else that we didn't lay out specifically as an item, let's put that together so that the council knows. We're also gonna be looking to try and get these when we can, if there is a good deal available,
So
and
should
to
we
let you know.
amend that, and put in for back truck?
I don't think we need to. My understanding from the state auditor is you don't need to amend specific line items. It's only if you're gonna go over your
Over the
authorized
authorization.
budget amount for
So
spend.
I think my concern too is when we put in our budget that this is what the money is going for, that's what I'm assuming it's going for. And I'm assuming also that our public is also thinking that's what that money is going for. So when we decide, it's $20,000, what we want to now purchase is only 8, it'll be fine. I'm just saying, if the council hasn't approved spending that 8 on what you're wanting to spend it on, it shouldn't be just pushed through. So I know we have $20,000 sitting there, but it's, when we made the budget, I was told that it was because we just bought this truck, nobody knew what it would need, and we just put it out there. To me, just putting 20 grand out there for that was even like a little, you know, I don't wanna just lay money out there so that it can be used any old way, because in the past, we've had issues with that. So I think the transparency would be, it fits in there under that line item, that we should use it as that, and if not, it doesn't get to just get pushed to something else unless it's approved by the council.
Help me understand something here. We've got in the budget $20,000 for that truck, that dump truck. Say we spend $8,000 to fix it, whatever you do, that leaves you $12,000. For that dump truck, if we can get a tar spreader piece for it that works on the dump truck so that we can do the chip seal, is that still part of the dump truck? That $20,000 budget?
So I was told that it was for upgrades for the dump truck.
That would be, wouldn't that be an upgrade for the dump truck?
I don't know that it would be.
Piece of equipment that would allow it to do more?
Is it only on that vehicle that it would be used?
I don't know, but I'm asking that question.
Well, I don't know, actually. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. If somebody can just go spend it, you could also just take that 12 grand and put it into your house. I mean, that's what I'm trying to keep from happening here. It's so that in the future, if we have policies and things made up, that will keep that from happening. Things being bought or purchased that weren't supposed to be purchased or that weren't approved, but yet the money was there. That's what I'm just trying to keep from happening.
All right.
And I don't understand.
Now, I've heard two proposals here this afternoon. One was on how much money could be spent, and the other one was on what types of things, whatever entity it is, whether it's water, public works, or this building. Suppose we combine the two. We've got the X percentage of the capital reserves, and we've got a list of things that might be of, not in a priority order, but things that Public Works could want, and something pops up, and Public Works has got it, it fits in the budget, these two approve it, is that something that we can go with?
Well, shouldn't it be in our budget then?
So here's my
You can't
opinion.
budget everything.
Yeah,
And I understand that, but it doesn't mean that you can just go spend money.
No, but if we've got a list of things that Public Works, let's use it for Public Works. We've got a list of things that Public Works could use to improve efficiency, based on what Katie said. And we've got a maximum amount that we can allow Public Works to spend on something if it comes up. And then it has to be approved by the mayor and the
So if I
administrator.
can jump in there for a second, why can't we just identify a contingency line item that can be used for these specific or special purchases, like a auction truck or whatever, and it's gonna have a maximum amount in that contingency, because that's what we're authorizing as a council. It could be 20,000 for the year, and if somehow we consume that, then there's another one that comes to the council, and we say, hey, here's an additional request for through resolution to add to that contingency fund. Why does that work for everybody? Because again, we're gonna see it, it's gonna be visible, it's gonna be reported every single month, but it's not gonna exceed a large dollar amount, it's gonna be within reason. Does that work?
So basically, we put 20,000 away and they can spend it on whatever.
No.
No.
But, well then,
If-
isn't it whatever's in the budget, it will be covered?
You can only spend if it's approved or something.
And what we were talking about earlier was if now there's, a potential need for the chip seal device, which isn't line itemed in the budget, but it could be one of those contingency items if the opportunity were to come up. So we would have like here are some few of the items that when we were doing the budget, we didn't specify, but now we know these are needs. So that it's not like we're just gonna willy-nilly go out and buy an RV or something, so.
Well, I think that's what I'm trying.
Yeah, no, I understand your concern.
And so, I mean, if there's a way we can do that, great. I just, again, I feel like the number should be small to start, but, that's my opinion.
Marty?
You can't anticipate everything the town may want
Right.
to purchase. And as I understand it, Public Works, someone there seems to be scouring for opportunities. So when the opportunity comes up, they may have to move fast. That's why you give them a spending authority, but you also give oversight to that authority so that they have to justify. You can even require they do it in writing. Say that a truck comes up they want to buy, they submit it in writing to the town administrator and, or the mayor, and you guys can approve or disapprove based on whether or not there's a justification for it. Then they're not willy-nilly buying things they think they'd like to have, but at the same time, they're able to buy the things they know they need. And that's how we always did it. Not that I'm trying to turn this town into where I came from. I just, that's kind of standard, and it's a lot what Councilman Bitter was suggesting. It's the same basic idea, but you give spending authority. And then say they spend whatever that amount is, or close to it, well before the fiscal year is over. If there's more money available in a budget that's not going to be spent, the council can then amend the budget and move some of that money into that authority, but you still have the same constraints.
Right.
They still have to justify what they're going to spend it on when the opportunity arises. And the people who manage the town on a day-to-day basis still have the ability to veto that spending. And if they spend it anyway, you got a disciplinary problem.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think we can get after, this in a number of ways with putting some policies down, putting a wish list of items together so the council's aware of. These are some of the capital items that aren't specified in the budget, but given that we know we have some excess, that if the opportunity were to arise, we would like to be able to go after them. So if we can just put it down in writing, and I think that's also one of the things we've been lacking in the past, right, was there hasn't been anything like this put down in writing as far as purchasing policies, and having some sort of flexibility in the budget, but with oversight. So let us take a crack at crafting that in writing and getting it to the council so that we can, again, make something that's workable for the town, and then, but also a level of comfort for the council that things aren't being done that they're not aware of, so.
I think Wade's trying to get in.
Go ahead, Wade. I'm sorry, Councilman Bitter, go ahead.
Yeah, the key here, this is what all corporations do. Again, because they cannot, the corporate, they don't have the foresight to know exactly what they're gonna spend, but they gotta keep it within the controls, right, that they've set in the grants of authorities. So again, what everybody's describing is what, maybe not, I don't have the experience on towns, but it's gotta be the same way, because things come up, and you gotta be able to respond fairly quickly. So whether it's an emergency or it's something that, hey, we got a really good deal here, this is gonna save us on efficiency or whatever, yeah, it works. So, again, I probably even have a policy we could build an ordinance on, that's kind of corporate driven, but we could easily change it for the town.
Okay, thank you. I think that would help us get started, or at least to try and put some things down on paper, so.
Yeah, let's do that. Then we can get the feedback from everybody and come up with a good plan going forward.
All right, thank you. Good discussion. Councilman Ellis, anything else?
Enough controversy
All right.
for today.
With that, may I have a motion to recess the meeting until 7 p.m. this evening?
I move we recess this meeting till 7 p.m. today.
Second?
Second.
It's been motioned by Councilman Ellis, seconded by Councilman Toolson. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All righty, thank you very much. We are recessed at 11:18 a.m. Thank you, Councilman Bitter. We will talk to you again this
Thanks,
evening.
guys. All right, see you tonight. Bye-bye.
Recording stopped.
get a fryer?
Did you say a fryer?
Yeah. Let me tell you, running a restaurant with one fryer.